I am Gregory Hallows, and this is Preserve Halloween Podcast. So I've been getting some comments. I've been getting some suggestions. A lot of people want me to kind of go back to the roots of all of this and do some more about, the history and the traditions and, the things that take a little bit more research and a little bit more time. And that's wonderful because I love doing research. I love doing all of the fun facts checking and just information. I need to turn my computer off because I just heard it dinging to me. And I don't know if you could hear that, but I surely can. Anyway, I decided to focus this podcast on one of the traditions of many, many traditions that are related to trick-or-treating and Halloween. So I'm going to jump right into it. I actually took some notes. I did some research today. This is one of the few podcasts lately that isn't off the top of my head. So let's start it off. There are a lot of traditions in the world that can be tied back to trick-or-treating and Halloween. So I just chose one of them, and I'm planning on getting into... Sorry, I'm still kind of getting over that con crud stuff. There are a lot of traditions and folklore and characters and all kinds of things tied to Halloween and trick-or-treating in some way. Researching these traditions and folklore can lead me down a wonderful wormhole of information. But this is my attempt to give basically the basics. Like, kind of the point of these podcasts is to get you interested into wanting to do some more research on your own. I have to fight really hard to not just go crazy and talk about all of them at once, which I almost did with this podcast. I kept just venturing off into another street and finding out about another character and another tradition and another thing that it's like, man, I really want to learn more about this. So that's all good ideas for future podcasts, right? So some of those other traditions and folklore and things are like Kakatus. Now, I'm going to apologize ahead of time. I'm probably going to butcher every thing I say for this podcast. I don't know how to pronounce a lot of these words correctly. So if I say them wrong and you speak that language, please correct me and tell me I'm an idiot. Or just, correct me nicely. I don't care. I want to know how to say it right. So there's Kekatas. It's Kekatas. This is a Latvian folk tradition of masked processions. The participants called Kekatniki wear various masks and go from one house to another, giving blessings and driving away evil spirits. Sounds a lot like one of our favorite things. There's the Namahaji. In northern Japanese folklore, these are demon-like beings portrayed by men wearing oni masks and traditional straw capes who march in pairs or sometimes in threes, going door to door, making rounds of people's homes, admonishing children who may be guilty of laziness or bad behavior. There's another, sounds a lot like trick-or-treating, right? I could go on and on, of course, but I'm going to focus today's podcast on one of the many European traditions brought to the U.S. by immigrants seeking a new life in the United States of America. This one, Belsnickeling. When European settlers arrived in Pennsylvania in the 17th century, they brought mumming or masking traditions with them. Now, generally, these traditions, they reference, birth and rebirth and sacrifice and the seasons and things like that. Much like Halloween does, right? And Samhain and so many of the other traditions throughout history were a celebration of, the harvests and life and death and, things that have been going on for forever. Some of these mumming traditions include Halloween, of course, Fastnacht, Mardi Gras, Saturnalia. They typically take place between the harvest seasons, October, when, everything changes, everything starts dying, circle of life repeats, in the spring when everything comes back and the growth starts and the flowers and all the, everything comes back to life, the earth, basically we're celebrating the earth, right? Halloween is probably the most celebrated of these various mumming traditions, but Halloween involves begging, which trick-or-treating is basically begging, right? This is a common mumming, this is something mumming's based on. So you go to houses and you beg. Another one of these traditions that wasn't mentioned is Belsnickeling. This is a tradition that took root in German and Pennsylvania Dutch communities and was later sent around with, all the immigrants that are coming into America to West Virginia, Pennsylvania, Indiana, and other states, right? So these traditions are just brought over from other countries, and just like our country as a whole, it's a melting pot. So Belsnickel was the central character in this tradition. He is a midwinter elf who is basically the yin and to the yang of St. Nicholas. So a dark contrast to what St. Nicholas represents. Belsnickel is related to other companions of St. Nicholas. There are a lot. I didn't realize how many companions in European folklore there were to St. Nicholas, and a lot of them are described as demons and, just the bad side of St. Nicholas being the good guy, right? There are a lot in the folklore of Germanic Europe. Belsnickel character originated in the historical region of Germany called Palatinate. He may have been based on an older German myth, the Knecht Ruprecht, who was a servant of St. Nicholas and a character from northern Germany. So let me give you a little background on Knecht Ruprecht, which I'm sure I'm saying wrong. I needed to ask the people in my family that speak German, but I didn't. Knecht Ruprecht is the most popular gift-bringing character in Germany after St. Nicholas, Christkindl, and Der Weihnachtsmann, but is virtually unknown outside of their country. He first appeared as far back as the 17th century. Many of the companions of St. Nicholas are a group of, they're closely related figures who accompany St. Nicholas in territories formerly in the Holy Roman Empire or countries that were influenced by the Roman Empire, right? So that's a lot. These characters act as basically the opposite of St. Nicholas. They are there to threaten or beat or abduct bad kids. So they are the boogeyman, pretty much. Jacob Grimm, yes, that Grimm, associated the character with pre-Christian house spirits, elves, which could either be benevolent or malicious, where the title for this podcast comes from. You remember that episode of The Office, Impish or Admirable? Which one are you? From what I've read, the mischievous side was highly emphasized after Christianization of many of the pagan ritual or pagan, not rituals, but pagan history. Fun fact, I'll say this before I get back into the Belsnickel. In the German version of The Simpsons, the family dog is not named Santa's Little Helper like it is in the U.S. The family dog is named Knecht Ruprecht. And I believe Ruprecht is a deviation of Robert in English, and it also means devil, I think, in some places. Anyway, so let me get back. So Belsnickel is apparently based on Knecht Ruprecht, which most, as we learn and look up folklore and traditions and stories, everything's based on something else, probably, right? So that's the fun part. Belsnickel does not accompany St. Nicholas, but instead visits the children alone, and he is both threatening and can be just, non-threatening. I guess it depends on how the kids react. He wears torn and tattered and dirty clothes, carries a switch in his hand, which he uses to beat naughty children, but he also carries pockets full of cakes, candies, and nuts for the kids that are good. So again, trick or treat. the literal definition of trick or treat, right? You either be good or you're bad, and that's how you're rewarded. When people immigrated to the United States, they brought their German traditions with them. Belsnickel was known in places like Pennsylvania in the early 1800s. The traditional Belsnickel would show up at houses a few weeks before Christmas and created fright and fear in children because he knew exactly which children were misbehaving. So he was like the snitch for Saint Nick. He would knock on the door or on the window with his stick, and if the children, when they answered, they would have to answer a question or sing some type of song to him. If he was appeased, they would give them candy on the floor. But the trick was, part of the candy giving was also a test. So if if you reached for the candy too fast, he'd smack you with the switch. So this guy is testing you constantly. Belsnickeling has also been described as groups of young men or youths dressed in false faces and fantastic costumes on Belsnickel night. That sounds a lot like trick-or-treating and Halloween to me. The eve of the Feast of St. Nicholas, and was the occasion of lots of good-natured fun. Young men would go around through the towns or the villages, rattling chains and bells, and just, basically acting as Belsnickel themselves. So, trick-or-treating, right? So, is this just another, fork in the tree of trick-or-treating? Because there's a lot. There are a lot of European and pagan, and, we know this from researching anything to do with folklore and history of traditions, that there's a tie there somewhere. This stuff didn't just come out of people's, just fall out of the sky. All these stories and traditions were taken from ancestors. So it's awesome. Some other traditional, because of the research I did, so that's a very, very basic breakdown of Belsnickeling and Belsnickel. If you want to learn more, please look it up and see where it comes from. It's awesome. There, you will go on so many forks in the road from Belsnickeling to some of the other characters I want to add to my list. As I read, about Belsnickeling and Belsnickel, of course, the other companions of St. Nicholas would be included, like Knecht Ruprecht. I want to find out more about him and the German folklore associated. Krampus, of course, who comes from folklore in Austria, Bavaria, Slovenia, Croatia. A lot of us know Krampus. That's becoming another more popular character here in the United States. Zwart Piet, which is Black Pete, which the traditional way of dressing up as Black Pete is now super racist, but they have adjusted it in some ways to counteract that. So it's not as, it's basically at certain points of history it was blackface basically. So cannot do that. So they've changed the way they celebrate Zwart Piet. That is a Dutch folklore, Belgium, Netherlands, Luxembourg folklore. La Pierre Foutard, or Foutard. I'm saying that wrong. This character is known in France, Belgium, and Switzerland, and all over Europe. And I also stumbled upon some other characters like Perkta, who is a goddess in Alpine paganism, Dead Moroz or Morosko, and this is a legendary figure in Russian folklore, Sinterklaas, which is the Dutch patron saint of children, also a deviation of Santa Claus. La Befana, who is one of my favorite characters because I used to live in Sicily, visited Italy. La Befana is the witch of Epiphany Eve in Italian culture. One of the best, basically it's like a witch Santa Claus, which is awesome. But La Befana is huge in Italian culture. I wish I was older when I lived there so I could have learned more about her. But definitely want to explore more detail on these folklore names. And just, it's fun learning, history of things that, aren't our country, because the United States is made up of a melting pot of tons of different cultures. It's cool to learn about them. So here's some fun facts about Belsnickel that I found while doing my research. The antagonist of the John R. Neal book, The Scallywagons of Oz, which is the 35th entry in the Oz series created by L. Frank Baum, the Wizard of Oz, is a mysterious monstrosity called Belsnickel. This is facts I got from Wikipedia. The 2020 Netflix film, The Christmas Chronicles 2, which had Kurt Russell as Santa Claus and Goldie Hawn as his wife, which was a really cool movie. It also features Belsnickel as the movie's main antagonist, who is trying to, I think, from what I remember, destroy Christmas. And, of course, in the episode of Season 9 of The Office, Dwight Christmas, Dwight Schrute dresses as Belsnickel and spends the entire episode deciding if the people he works with are impish or admirable during the Christmas party, which is a really funny episode. And I think I read somewhere that Nate, who went on to be one of the main characters in What We Do in the Shadows, he is the psychic vampire. Nate from The Office, I can't remember the actor's name, but I read somewhere, and I don't know if it's true, somebody fact check me, because I'm in the middle of recording this and I'm not going to stop. I think he played a version of Zwart Piet, and they removed it from the episode because it was racist, basically. And I guess they thought nobody would get it. Like, Belsnickel was bad enough, but, I mean, that show's shot in the area where Belsnickel would be, still popular to a lot of people, because that's, the immigrants from the area that would know this, that's that part of the country. So they took it out and they removed it. I don't think it ever aired with him playing that. I don't know. I'm going to have to look now. But as always, researching this stuff and learning about other cultures is one of the fun parts for me in researching Halloween and its traditions and history, because you're learning the history of the world. Halloween is tied into so much throughout history. It's fun to put the pieces together and try to, see how it all goes. But anyway, this was a fun episode. Thank you guys for listening. I think I'm going to be knocking out podcasts way faster than normal, because there's so much I want to research. So thank you again, and always preserve Halloween.